Hello and welcome back to a deck tech that we have for you. It's a Historic Brawl deck tech on Narset of the Ancient Way. She is a 4-mana planeswalker. Her plus gives you 2 life, and you're going to add 1 blue, red, or white to your mana pool. You got her -2, which allows you to draw a card, then discard a card. When you discard an online card this way, Narset of the Ancient Way deals damage equal to that card's converted mana cost to target creature or planeswalker. And then the -6 is you get an emblem with whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this emblem deals 2 damage. So what are we going to do with this nice commander here? Well, we're going to get to that -6 as many times as we can in the game and steamroll from there. Usually all we need is 1, 2 is great, 3 is just you better win the game, unless if they have, omniscience down and it's just going ham on you. Alright, so how are we going to get to our -6 in time? We're going to first off stop the hasty creatures with Authority of the Consuls, Swords of Plowshare, Fateful Absence, Exit Charm, all the single target removal. They're very cheap. Cyclonic Rift can also be single target removal. We have a few counter spells like Wash Away, Negate, Counterspell. Narset's Reversal can double up. Can't forget about Reprieve. Not really a counter spell, but can get rid of a counter spell. Exit Charm as another counter spell, but it can be uncountered. And we also got some other ways of dealing with more threats. Again, we're going to go back to Cyclonic Rift, but the Overload, and this is instant speed. People will mainly go into attack first, thinking that they can get in some damage before they start casting their spells, and then you pop out a Cyclonic Rift overloaded, and they now have to rebuild. We also have Brotherhood's End, which is good against those pesky elves and goblin decks. Day of Judgment, Settle the Wreckage, Supreme Verdict, Cleansing Nova, Fumigate, Sunfall, Farewell, River's Rebuke, Ondu Inversion, Portal to Phyrexia, and White Sun Zenith are just great board wipes overall. So they're automatic includes to the deck. I also got a few more forms of removal in the form of Inspired Ultimatum, which can get rid of creatures, planeswalkers, or players if they're low enough. And remember, with each Narset emblem, this is just a free extra 2 damage, countered or not. So if it goes through 7 damage, that can easily be lethal in the late game. So how do we go ahead and fix our mana? As you see, our mana base, we do have 3 colors, so we got to make sure that we are on point. We have Wayfarer's Bauble, so we can hopefully get Narset down on turn 3. Arcane Signet does the same thing. Cold Steel Heart as well. Guardian Idol can, but depends on how your mana is during the time. Chromatic Lantern makes all of your lands useful. Celestis is great throughout the game because it can also act as card filtering for your hand. We also have Smothering Tithe, which forces the opponent to either pay up some mana or we get some treasure tokens. And Chromatic Orrery sometimes can be useful for the card draw depending on if you're in a pinch or if you're hellbent from a discard deck. So what other friends do we have companioning with Narset? We have Narset herself, this time Imparter of Veils. Narset will stop your opponents from drawing more cards, and you'll also be able to go ahead and get some other non-creature spells to help you out with the game. We have Wandering Emperor, which will stop any small threat. We also have Chandra, Torch of Defiance, which also acts as ramp, can also cast from the top of your deck, and her emblem is also just as threatening as Narset's, if not more threatening. We have Teferi Time Raveler. Now they cannot counter your stuff unless they get rid of Teferi or do anything on your turn. Teferi who slows the sunset. This can either be ramp or it can get you out of sticky situations with the -2. We have Raw Storm Conduit. He's kind of a niche in the deck. You might get that -2 with a double extra turn spell. Or like Prismari Command, you might want to double up. Sometimes you'll play Raw on 4 instead of Narset. Jace Unraveler's Secrets. He's good in the deck, mainly for his top 2 abilities. That -8, people will see that and immediately draw attention away from Narset to Jace because they think that you're going to try to bum rush that. Which, if you do, good on you. I never use that ultimate unless if I'm in a superior state, which I'm already winning the game. So just to add insult to injury, you can just negate. Mainly use it to return a creature or try to get your draws in. We have Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. This is another planeswalker that people want to kill on sight. His plus is you draw a card, and at the beginning of your next end step, untap up to 2 lands. This is great so that you can now hold up, your counter spells. The -3 puts target non-land permanent to its owner's 3rd from top. This is very risky because now he's down to 1, and if you don't have Authority of the Consuls out, then he can easily be hasted down. Eternal Wanderer is a really good planeswalker to have in this deck, as only 1 creature can attack her per combat, and her plus can easily just blink their commander out for 1 turn. So like the 0 just makes a block, and then the -4 is a pretty nasty board wipe, as you get to choose a creature and from both sides, and then everybody sacrifices the rest. So it also gets around the gods and their indestructibility. We have Chandra, Awakened Inferno, which cannot be countered, so it's really good if you're going against counter-heavy decks, or if you're going against another Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, that mainly holds up counter spells. Chandra's +2. Each opponent gets an emblem at the beginning of your upkeep. This emblem deals 1 damage to you. -3 allows her to deal 3 damage to each non-elemental creature. And then -6, you get to deal X damage to a target creature or planeswalker. If that creature, or if that permanent would be dealt damage dies, it exiles in instead. We're going to talk about the game plan here with all of these cards in mind. We have a few other cards that help with getting the deck through what it needs to do. First off is a really good land for late game, Castle Ardenvale. If you have 5 extra spare mana, 4 spare mana plus this up, scry 2, gets you to your next answers. Brainstorm, early, mid, late game, good card filtering. Search for Azcanta, so you surveil at first, then once your graveyard is filled enough, you're going to go ahead and flip it over. This allows you to get your non-creatures out of your deck and into your hand a lot quicker. Mazemind Tome, mainly used for the scry, plus the 4 life after you've used it 4 turns. Chemist's Insight is a good way to draw 4 cards throughout the game. Memory Deluge is a great way to look through the top 4 or 7 cards of your deck when you use it for the flashback. And you can pick 2 cards each time from those selections to add to your hand. Whirlwind of Thought is one of the best cards in this deck, as I will play this over Narset. As now, no matter if Narset gets countered or if you have other stuff you want to play in order to slow down your opponent, this also allows you to draw a card. So now each one of your spells becomes play this draw card for free until they can get rid of the Whirlwind of Thought. Then we have Seagate Restoration, which can also dual function as a land, or I'll use this as the kick spell for Narset if it's early enough. But you draw cards equal to your hand size +1, and you no longer have maximum hand size, which can help you out later game when you start drawing a bunch of cards. Treasure Cruise, we have other ways of helping out the deck with Teferi's protection, just protects your board. Ichor Moon Gauntlet, this makes it so that every time you now cast a non-creature spell, you get to put a loyalty counter on one of your planeswalkers. Plus now your planeswalkers have proliferate, so if you have 3 or 4 planeswalkers out, you might want a 0 to proliferate instead of doing their own plus ability. And also now each planeswalker has, you can neg 12 to take an extra turn, which is really good on Chandra and Raul, as their +2s can get you up there easier. We have Rhystic Studies to make the opponent decide if they want to give me more cards or if they want to play their spells. Mystic Retrieval, this can be used twice during a game, but it's still great if you need a board wipe or if you need some better draws. It's better late game than it is early game, so it is in there for that. Or if somebody's playing mill, then it's cheaper, so you can use it a little bit earlier to grab something that was milled. Elite Air now makes it so that all your sorceries and instants have flashback, and also spells cannot be countered. So if you have your Cyclonic Rift in the graveyard, you can cast it again with Lier out. Inspired Ultimatum can now be used again. All of these spells now get re-unlocked with Lier. Inexorable Tide. Now whenever you cast any spell, you proliferate. Really good when you have multiple planeswalkers out. Time Warp, take an extra turn. Oath of Teferi. Blink something. There isn't really too many ETB effects in this deck. I don't even think there are any. But you can Oath of Teferi, like a land, so you can have another mana open next turn. And now all your planeswalkers can use their abilities again. Karn's Temporal Sundering. The only thing is that you need to have one of the planeswalkers out or Lier in order to use it. You get to bounce a target, non-land target, to their hand and then take an extra turn. All Runes Epiphany for 7 mana as another extra turn spell. And then we have Triumphant Reckoning. So if the opponent likes the board wipe, or if you've gone through too many of your planeswalkers from using their negative abilities or ulting them, you can now get a second chance of having them back. If you have like Lier out, or if you have Teferi Time Raveler, you know that it's not going to get countered. And then we have Heliod's Intervention. Serves a dual purpose where we can gain a bunch of life if it's late game and we need it, or we can get rid of a bunch of artifacts or enchantments. So the Calyxes, the Emrys, all those decks, I hate seeing this card. And yeah, for the land base, go and put Castle Vantress back. We're running 5 plains, 6 islands, and 4 mountains, and we're only running Castle Vantress and Ardenvale. No reason to run the red cat, I think it's called Castle Embreth, because we don't run that many creatures. Literally, I think Lier is the only creature in the deck that we have. We can create creature tokens, but we're not going to be doing that as much. And then we have a bunch of dual colored lands to help fix the mana. Mystic Monastery, I'm so glad that's out. Rogran Triome is busted when you can grab it with any one of the fetch lands, like Flooded Strand, Windswept Heath, and Wooded Foothill. Mana Confluence, just as another way of having all 3 manas. Interplanar Beacon helps out with the planeswalkers, because sometimes trying to cast Narset on 3, this Narset, can be quite a challenge. Or if we're missing like another red for Chandra later on. We just got Fabled Passage to grab one of the basics. Command Tower is another 3-colored land. And that's pretty much the deck. Oh, I can't forget about Karn's Bastion. Late game proliferation on the land, so it's going to be hard for them to remove. Also, Reliquary Tower is another way for us to have no maximum hand size. Hope you like the deck, and I hope that you check out all the videos that are going to be coming out soon.